The night air in downtown Chicago was sharp enough to make your bones ache. Amara pressed her tiny hands into the pockets of her worn jacket, standing just outside the glowing glass doors of Morningside, the city's most expensive restaurant. Cars purred past on the wet street, steam curling from manhole covers. Wealthy couples stepped out of black SUVs, laughter echoing as valets opened doors and brushed off invisible dust from their coats. Inside, golden chandeliers threw light on linen-covered tables, and every seat was filled with people who looked like they had never been hungry for even a minute. Nobody noticed the black girl in the shadows, her hair wild from the wind, her shoes gone since last week. Amara's stomach growled so loud it hurt. She pressed her back against the cold brick, eyes fixed on the bright windows. Every so often, a server in a crisp uniform would come out carrying a silver tray, empty glasses rattling, tossing scraps in the alley trash without a glance her way. She took a step forward, desperate, but a waiter caught her eye and shook his head hard. "Not tonight," he muttered, his voice low but sharp enough to sting. "Go on. Keep moving." Another server, a blonde woman with perfect nails, brushed past Amara like she wasn't even real. Amara wanted to say something, anything, but her throat was too dry. A group of white men in suits burst through the doors, all jokes and loud voices, ignoring the girl standing right beside them. One almost bumped her, didn't even flinch. Amara's breath came out shaky and white. The cold cut through her dress, but she stayed. She'd watched diners through the window for nearly an hour, hoping just one person might notice her, maybe even offer half a dinner roll or a slice of bread. Not a single person even looked up. Another plate of untouched food, steak, potatoes, bright green asparagus, was dumped in the trash. Amara's eyes watered. She took a single step toward the bin. "Hey," the waiter shouted, moving between her and the food. "You don't belong here. This is not a shelter. Move along or I'm calling someone." The door swung closed behind him, shutting out the music and warmth. Amara wiped her face with the back of her hand. The city lights sparkled, but she felt invisible. Her hands shook as she whispered, "Maybe just one person. Please, just once." The wind howled, but nobody heard her. "Hi, my name is Malik. If you believe stories like this need to be heard, please hit like and subscribe right now. Your support helps us shine a light on real injustice." Inside the warmth of Morningside, the world was a different planet. Waiters glided past each other in practiced ballet, napkins folded into crisp triangles, wine poured like liquid gold. The smell of roasted garlic and butter hung in the air, mingling with laughter and the faint notes of a jazz piano near the bar. A table by the window stood apart, surrounded by a quiet bubble of space. No one dared approach without invitation. Elliot Grant sat there, a billionaire whose name flashed on Times Square billboards, whose face showed up in glossy magazines. Tonight, he was just a man alone with a half-finished glass of bourbon, stirring the ice out of habit. He wore a navy suit that looked expensive enough to pay someone's rent for a year, but the look in his eyes was distant. He watched as couples toasted to anniversaries, friends snapped selfies with overpriced appetizers, a family celebrated their daughter's scholarship with a 3-layer cake. His own plate, New York strip, perfectly pink, with truffle mashed potatoes and roasted mushrooms, sat untouched. The waiter asked quietly if he wanted anything else. Elliot shook his head, his gaze drifting back to the city beyond the window. Somewhere out there, he thought, was real life. Not this parade of status, not this endless circle of small talk and empty congratulations. He noticed the homeless girl before anyone else did, but only just a shadow moving by the door, thin shoulders hunched, eyes wide and shining in the city light. For a split second, he felt a strange tug in his chest. The memory of cold nights years ago when he'd slept in his mother's car and dreamed of days when hunger was just a bad dream drifted through his mind. He pressed it down. That was another life. That life was gone. The restaurant buzzed with stories and small dramas, businessmen closing deals over creme brulee, a couple fighting in whispers over a diamond ring. Nobody in the room seemed to see the girl outside the same way nobody saw the cleaning staff slipping in and out, quietly making everything shine. Elliot's phone buzzed, lighting up with 100 unread emails. An assistant's text, "Are you staying late at the office tomorrow?" Another from a board member, "Investors want your signature on the China deal." He swiped them away, feeling strangely numb. How did all this success end up feeling so empty? A waiter leaned over, voice hushed. "Sir, would you like us to clear your table now?" Elliot blinked. "Not yet. His voice was softer than he expected. The waiter nodded and disappeared. He glanced out the window one more time. The girl was still there, pressed into the cold brick, watching the restaurant like she was waiting for a miracle. Their eyes met just for a heartbeat, just enough for him to see fear and hope twisted together on her face. Elliot looked away quickly, but that image stayed with him, haunting and familiar. He wondered if anyone else in this city full of lights and music could see how close loneliness and hunger pressed against the glass. He doubted it. He closed his eyes, took a slow breath, and told himself he was imagining things. But deep down, something restless stirred. A piece of himself he thought he'd buried with his old life, the part that still remembered what it felt like to be invisible. The night kept pressing in, cold biting harder as Amara shifted from one foot to the other. Each time a plate of food scraped into the trash, her stomach twisted. At last, hunger finally won over fear. She pressed her lips together and stepped into the glow of the restaurant's doorway. As soon as she crossed the threshold, the temperature difference hit her like a wall. Warmth, music, the soft rattle of cutlery. Every head in the foyer turned. Amara's clothes hung from her thin frame, her toes peeked out from torn socks. She clutched the sleeves of her jacket, eyes wide, scanning faces for a single kind one. There were none. A hostess with red lipstick and a practiced smile immediately intercepted her. "Excuse me, you can't be here," she said, voice sharp but wrapped in politeness. Amara opened her mouth, but no words came. From a nearby table, a silver-haired woman in pearls glanced up, eyes narrowing, mouth twisting with distaste. "Where's security?" someone whispered. The head waiter appeared, shoes clicking, posture stiff. "Miss, if you're lost, let me call someone for you. This is a private dining establishment." Amara's voice barely rose above a whisper. "I'm not lost. I just want to eat." She swallowed, hands trembling. Someone near the bar pulled out a phone, ready to record. A group of businessmen nudged each other, smirking. "She'll be out in a minute," one said. Amara took a shaky breath, looked straight past the stairs, and walked toward the only empty seat she could see, right beside the billionaire at the window. Each step felt impossible. The floor seemed to stretch, every table another obstacle, every face another wall. The waiter tried to intercept. "Miss, please, I'll have to call the police if..." But Amara stood her ground. "Sir." Her voice shook, but she didn't back down. Can I eat with you?" A hush swept over the room. Even the piano player missed a note. Elliot turned slowly, eyes finding the small, shaking figure beside him. For a second, neither of them moved. The restaurant's conversations faded, replaced by the sound of Amara's shallow breaths and the pounding of her heart. The waiter moved forward, voice low but dangerous. "Sir, do you want us to remove her? She doesn't belong here." Elliot stared at Amara, something old and forgotten flickering in his eyes. He glanced around at the diners gawking, the staff judging, the phones held up for viral clips. For a heartbeat, he saw the city as she did, cold, merciless, and closed. Amara clung to the edge of the table, knuckles white. "Please, sir? I'm sorry. I haven't eaten in 2 days. I'll be quiet, I promise." The waiter cleared his throat. "Should I call security, sir?" No one in the restaurant said a word. Even the laughter from the bar faded. Elliot felt the weight of every eye in the room, every unspoken rule pressing down. And still, Amara stood her ground, hungry and alone, waiting for someone to see her. If you're still watching, drop a comment below. What would you do in this situation? And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that matter. Elliot's eyes locked on Amara's, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. He saw past the dirt and ragged clothes, saw the same look he'd worn as a boy on long, hungry nights, hope and fear fighting in her eyes. He could almost hear his mother's voice from decades ago, "Never let them see you beg. But never be ashamed to ask." A ripple of shock moved through the room. The waiter waited for permission, shoulders stiff with annoyance, already expecting Elliot to send the girl away. The other diners leaned forward, waiting to see a scene. No one expected what happened next. Elliot pushed his chair back and stood up, his tall frame casting a shadow over the table. The room held its breath. "She's with me," Elliot said, his voice steady and clear. "Bring her a chair. And get her a meal, your best." The waiter blinked, confused. "Sir? You heard me. Whatever she wants. She's my guest." Elliot pulled out the chair beside him and gently touched Amara's shoulder. "Sit down, please." Gasps broke the silence. A woman covered her mouth with her hand. The man at the bar who'd been filming lowered his phone, uncertain. Amara's hands shook as she slid into the seat. For a second she didn't believe it was real. The linen felt soft under her fingertips, the warmth from the nearby heater reached her cheeks. She looked up at Elliot, unsure if this was a trick. Elliot knelt to her level. "You're safe here," he said softly. "No one will hurt you. Not tonight." The waiter hovered, shifting from foot to foot. Are you sure, sir?" Elliot's voice turned firm. "I'm not asking. I'm telling you. Please bring some bread. She's freezing." As the waiter rushed away, the room buzzed with whispers and judgment. "Unbelievable," someone muttered. "This is a 5-star place." Others just stared, eyes darting from Amara to Elliot. Ignoring them, Elliot turned back to Amara. "What's your name?" "Amara," she whispered, clutching the fabric of her dress. "Thank you, sir. I thought no one would ever help." He smiled gently. "You don't have to thank me. You're not invisible." A few feet away, the restaurant manager appeared, face tight with concern. "Mr. Grant, is everything all right?" Elliot looked up, his jaw set. "Everything is perfect. Please bring the kitchen's best plate, and quickly." The manager nodded, thrown off by Elliot's confidence. When the bread arrived, Amara stared at it like it might disappear. She reached for a piece, hands trembling, and took a small bite. Tears pricked her eyes. "It's so warm," she whispered. Elliot saw her shiver and slipped off his jacket, draping it gently over her shoulders. The room watched, uncertain how to react. He met their gazes, unafraid. "Maybe instead of staring, you should ask why a child has to beg for dinner in this city." Silence spread like wildfire, nobody daring to reply. The restaurant's perfect, polished atmosphere fractured under the weight of Elliot's words. Staff and diners alike shifted in their seats, faces flushed with confusion, embarrassment, or quiet anger. The manager lingered at a distance, uncertain, caught between protecting the restaurant's image and offending its wealthiest client. A wealthy man at the next table muttered, "This isn't a soup kitchen." His wife stared down at her pearls, lips pressed tight, refusing to meet Amara's eyes. The bar buzzed with uneasy whispers. A young couple filmed from their booth, eager for drama to post online. The waiter returned, balancing a tray heavy with roasted chicken, vegetables, and warm bread. He paused, searching for direction, then set the food gently in front of Amara, careful not to meet her gaze. Amara stared at the plate, her hands frozen on the table. Elliot leaned in, voice low but steady. "Eat, Amara. You're safe. This is yours." She took a tentative bite, then another, eyes filling with tears she tried to hide. The taste of real food, the feel of kindness, both felt like distant memories. Across the room, the murmurs grew sharper. "She doesn't belong here," someone whispered. "If they let one in, more will come." Another voice, louder, angrier, "We pay to avoid this." The manager finally approached, clearing his throat. "Mr. Grant, may I speak with you privately?" Elliot didn't move. "Say what you need to say right here." The manager hesitated, then pressed on, "We have a policy, sir. Only paying guests, properly attired, are allowed to dine. I hope you understand the position this puts us in." Elliot looked up, his expression hard. "Your position?" "She's 7 years old, hungry, and alone. If this city's finest restaurant can't spare a plate for a child in need, maybe your policy is the problem." A ripple of discomfort passed through the staff. Some looked at their shoes. Others glanced at Amara, shame coloring their faces. Still, a few guests rolled their eyes, unwilling to let go of their privilege. Elliot turned to the room, voice carrying. "If you're upset by a hungry child being fed, you should ask yourself why." The room went silent. The older couple by the window exchanged a look, one of guilt, maybe even regret. The bartender wiped down the counter twice, pretending not to listen. Amara wiped a tear from her cheek. "My mom always said kindness was the only thing that cost nothing." Elliot smiled softly, but his eyes stayed fierce. "Tonight, that kindness is on me. And if anyone has a problem, they can take it up with me." The manager, defeated, nodded. "As you wish, Mr. Grant." For a brief moment, the restaurant was transformed, not by money, not by reputation, but by a simple act of humanity that forced everyone to see what they'd tried so hard to ignore. As Amara ate, her shoulders finally relaxed. For the first time in days, her hands stopped shaking. Bite by bite, she let herself believe this moment was real. The taste of warm chicken and soft bread filled her up in a way that went deeper than hunger. Tears slid down her cheeks, but this time she didn't try to hide them. Elliot watched her quietly, the room's tension settling into something softer. He felt the judgment of the other diners, the curious stares, the quiet resentment. None of it mattered now. He'd made his decision. For a moment, he looked at Amara and saw not just a child in need, but his own reflection from a lifetime ago. "Do you have anyone waiting for you?" he asked gently. Amara shook her head, swallowing hard. "My mama used to before she got sick. After she died, I was on my own." She looked down, twisting a piece of bread in her hands. "People always tell me to go away. Sometimes they call the police. I just wanted to feel warm." Elliot's jaw clenched. He reached out and covered her hand with his. "You don't have to do this alone anymore. Not tonight. Not ever again." Amara looked up, unsure, searching his face for a sign that this kindness might last longer than a meal. "I mean it," Elliot said, voice thick with emotion. "Tonight you're coming with me. We'll get you new clothes, a real bed, breakfast in the morning. Whatever you need." From across the room, the words registered with the other diners. Some looked away in shame, uncomfortable with their own inaction. A few tried to smile in support. One older woman dabbed her eyes with a napkin. Even the waiter seemed changed, quietly asking if Amara wanted anything else. Amara's lips trembled. "I promise I'll be good. I can help clean," or Elliot shook his head. "You don't owe me anything. You just have to be a kid." A few people gathered the courage to speak. The man at the bar, who had first reached for his phone, now slid it away. "She's lucky you found her," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Elliot addressed the staff, his voice steady. "If you ever see her outside again, you feed her. No questions." "That's not a request." The manager nodded, humbled. "Of course, sir." The mood in the restaurant shifted. A moment ago, it had been ice-cold and hostile. Now it felt almost reverent, a collective realization that something had changed, even if only for a night. Amara finished her meal, cheeks flushed, hope shining for the first time in her eyes. Elliot wrapped her in his coat, holding the door open as they stepped into the cold together. As they left, one of the diners quietly slipped a bill onto their table, a silent offering for Amara's future. A new chapter had begun, not just for her, but for everyone who witnessed what compassion could do. The city felt different as they stepped outside. The sharp wind stung less now, caught in the folds of Elliot's coat draped around Amara's shoulders. The luxury cars and glittering lights looked smaller somehow. For Amara, each step away from that restaurant felt like leaving a bad dream behind. Elliot led her to his black sedan, pausing to unlock the door. Amara hesitated, glancing back at the building, half expecting someone to call her name, to drag her back. But no one did. Instead, through the frosted glass, she could see faces watching, some with awe, some with regret. "Is it okay if I sit up front?" she whispered. Of course, Elliot smiled, holding the door. She climbed in, careful not to dirty the seat. He wrapped a warm blanket around her and gently buckled her in. The engine purred to life, heater humming. Amara pressed her face to the window, watching the world race by. She didn't say a word, afraid to break the fragile spell of safety. A few blocks away, Elliot stopped at a corner store still open, its windows full of bright lights and snacks. "Are you hungry for anything else?" he asked softly. "Ice cream? Juice?" She hesitated, shy. "I never tried strawberry ice cream before." He bought her a big tub, a sandwich, and a bottle of apple juice. The clerk smiled at Amara as Elliot paid. "You have a good dad, young lady." Amara flushed, unsure how to answer. Elliot just nodded, eyes kind. Back in the car, Amara hugged the bag of groceries to her chest. "Will I have to sleep outside tomorrow?" Her voice was so small it nearly vanished beneath the sound of the road. Elliot shook his head. "Never again. Tonight you'll have a warm bed and a door that locks. Tomorrow we'll figure out school, shopping, everything you need. But tonight you're safe." For the first time, Amara smiled, a real, unguarded smile, the kind only a child can give when she finally feels hope. They reached Elliot's apartment, a high-rise with a view of the whole city. He carried her up in the elevator, guiding her through spotless hallways, unlocking a door to a world of soft carpets and gentle light. Amara's eyes grew wide. "Is all this yours?" "It's ours tonight," he said. "Tomorrow we'll see." He showed her the guest room, fluffed the pillows, found a pair of thick socks and a sweatshirt for her to wear. She climbed into bed, clutching the soft blanket, still holding the uneaten ice cream in her lap. Elliot knelt by her side. If you ever need anything, all you have to do is ask. Amara nodded, eyelids heavy. Thank you. No one ever said that before. Elliot smiled, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. Get some rest, Amara. Tomorrow is a brand new day. As he closed the door, a quiet peace settled over the apartment. Outside, the city sparkled, but for once, inside these walls, hope felt bigger than fear. If you believe in second chances and breaking barriers, share this story. To viewers in the USA, UK, and Canada, your voice matters. Together, we can change the world.